Then we proceed with Michel Rojkind. Is Michel around? I think he is. Odile,
Presente.
Hola, hola, Michel.
Hola, Odile. ¿Cómo estás? How are you, Odile? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Hope to see you in Mexico soon. No?
Oh, yes, why not? But I don't know if I can travel to Mexico now.
Yes, yeah. Mexico, we're welcoming everybody. Don't worry.
Oh, fantastic. Right.
Which is good and is bad as well. But yeah,
okay.
We met here in Mexico a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Once you came for a conference here. But anyway, okay. Congrats on your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Welcome, Michel, to the 21 S.ARCH Awards. It's great to see you. Un placer enorme.
Igual, likewise. How have you been? All good?
Yes, everything is fine. Okay, I didn't present anybody, so I don't think I should present you, except to remind people that Michel is an architect from Mexico with highly interesting work. And let's get started. And perhaps we have a few minutes for discussion at the end of Michel's presentation.
Perfect.
Let's go ahead. Adelante.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Share. And let me put the play, but let me do one more thing and say share. Okay. So there you can see my screen, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and you can see it advancing, right? Build on craft.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Everything
so perfect. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to talk a little bit about building on craft and the importance of digital design and local fabrication. So I would like to start with saying I come from Mexico City, this incredible metropolis, crazy city, and understanding how to be an architect here, how to design, how to think of problems in the way that the city is growing, and then the inequalities and everything else that has to do with the expansion and growth of really large cities. But I have to confess that Mexico has this amazing thing to reinvent itself. Mexico, I mean, we're very ingenious by necessity. So you see cleverness everywhere, which is beautiful as a creative experience. But again, it's this being ingenious because of the necessity to thrive, the necessity to reinvent, to be resilient, to be adaptive. And I'd like to start with this image that let me see if I can draw on it. This reflects a little bit of what Mexico is. And this is a photograph that was taken by an ex-partner of mine, Gerardo Salinas, we used to work together, and he stopped his car and took a photograph of this. And exactly what is happening here. What is happening here is that this guy who's on top of the ladder owns the store here in the corner. And the stop sign stopped working. So this guy called the municipality saying, like, guys, the stop sign doesn't work and there's high-speed traffic and nobody's stopping at my store because it's dangerous. And I really want you guys to come and fix the stop sign. And he didn't get any response from the government. Nobody answered. So what he did is he called this guy here, who's his compadre, his relative, who owns this truck. He brought the truck. He hosed the ladder for this guy, who, again, this person doesn't know anything about electricity, but he's willing to take the chance to fix something that the government is not doing. So once they're stopping the traffic, once that everything is in this incredible balancing act of chaos, what happens? A police guy arrives, and the policeman stands there and says, okay, everything is under control. And this is a little bit of what happens in Mexico. If you wait for the system to provide something, you can wait forever. So when you start taking systems under your own hands, it becomes this idea, this is what I was saying, the ingenious by necessity. You have to, the system is broken. So this system, you have to understand the layers of it and to be upfront and trying to solve the things yourself. And then, of course, again, the police guy will, or the city will come and say, oh, yes, we're doing our job and we're helping you fix this. No? In that same way, when I started doing architecture, I remember one of my first projects being this house for the ballerina dancer. And when we were working this house for the ballerina dancer, I was remembering that the tectonics and the things that I wanted the house to show were more in sync with not what was the typical construction during that time. So I remember that because I wanted this smooth skin of steel on the outside without any seams, I remember going, rather than to construction companies, to see where they were fixing wrecked cars. And this is a very famous place in Mexico called Colonia Doctores, where they fixed wrecked cars or crashed cars. And they do it really well, they do it really fast. And so we invited them to do this job for this addition to a house in Tecamachalco. And it was an incredible surprise to see them, how they could work and how could deliver something like this. This was back in 2002, I remember. And again, this kind of started proving the idea that I didn't want to always look for construction companies or the construction methodologies, that I wanted to look in different ways and different places to understand how I could build the architecture that I wanted to build. In the same way, the house that we refurbished to convert into a Japanese restaurant, also understanding timelines and budgets and handmade things, the manufacturer and the idea to put your hands on something. And this is the actual steel plates that we were cutting for a facade of this building that we were going to renovate. Very thin gauge, because the client didn't have a lot of budget to do it in a very thick gauge. But what we wanted to do is that once we welded every piece, and again, this is again the beauty of it, we were doing these boxes that are 10 by 10 or 2 inches by 2 inches, and welding all the box and then spraying foam on the inside so it wouldn't sound hollow. So there's recycled spray foam on the inside of the piece. So when the foam expands on the inside, then the piece sounds like a solid piece and then becomes this skin that we wanted to create that was more about the dynamics and the movement. So here you see the Mexican welders. Again, these are photographs that I love showing because once the project is finished, you don't see this, no? You don't see the people and you don't smell the welding. But the whole idea was to really not see at all where the unions were. These are all 120 by 240 pieces of steel. And when the sections are welded, the whole intention again is that you don't see any parts or any visible segments at all. So this is the final version of this Japanese restaurant. Again, this house that was refurbished, we restructured the house. This is a collaboration between Héctor Esrague, who's a very famous Mexican designer, industrial designer, who I collaborate a lot with, and Ignacio Nacho Cadena, who's the branding designer for this. All the idea and the intentions behind this bris de soleil was that when you opened up the windows, you still have this bris de soleil, and you kind of, even though you're inside, you feel almost exposed to the outside. Another great idea that or thing that we wanted to achieve with the project was to keep it very simple towards the street. So towards the street, you don't see that much of the building, but once you come in, you arrive to this place that has a garden and a vertical garden and a beautiful experience that you're contained. Designing for other things to happen and picking up where governments and city plannings are failing. This is a little bit of that first image that I showed you about this guy with his store. And what's interesting about this, again, is that what we wanted to do is understand in architecture, how does that translate to our profession and to what we're doing? So, for instance, when we got this commission to do the National Film Institute, the National Film Institute had these requirements to do extra movie theaters, and they wanted to have an extra space for for their vaults where they're archiving all the things. But in every project, we tend to ask always more. What is the right question? What is the right solution? So we try to invite experts, sociologists, anthropologists, and many people that can help us define exactly what is needed for the project. And in this case, yes, we comply to what the government was looking for. This was the end of term of Felipe Calderón, our president. And this was the existing National Film Institute, as you can see in the picture below. But it was all covered with a car park. It was very, very, or most people only recognized part of the site. So the first thing that we wanted to do in our office was to recognize the whole condition of the project. So how can I recognize the whole condition of the project? And then with what I have, what was the first thing that we wanted to do? Put the new screening rooms in front of the old ones to start creating an axis that would start working for the project in general. Once you have the theaters here, you can see, I'll draw a line on the main entrance. This is the main entrance here. And there's another back entrance that people use. So that intersection of both axes became the most relevant part, where we put a cover on top of the building. So after doing or taking all the cars out, and we did a car park here at the one of the main entrances so people could come in, leave their car, and then enter a sort of campus-like effect where the theaters are now in a garden and they become more easy to navigate in terms of having this outdoor space. We also provided an outdoor cinema that you see in some of the pictures that was not part of the project. This is what I was saying, like, how can we expand and talk about more of the possibilities of the expansion of a project and giving back to communities. So again, this project ended up being a lot of back and forth and planning the strategic solution for the project. What you see here in orange in the bottom part of this project is Mauricio Rocha, another very important architect from Mexico City. His father had done the original Cineteca. So we invited Mauricio as the son to collaborate in this project and to do the offices that you see here in orange and a museum that later was required as part of the program once we started working on the project. So this is the image of the new cinemas or the new theaters that have this rooftop and canopy that connects both axes and works in a great way to cover an area that you'll see some of the images of all the programming that now happens. So of course we complied with doing these theaters for the inside with acoustic and aseptic studies and great idea for presenting the new type of formats that they have at this National Film Institute. And this was the existing site as you would see it with the cars there. And this is now without the cars, of course. So playing around with one of the first ideas of taking the car park and putting it outside again was this, that if you free the spaces from having cars there, the experience will be much more beautiful. No? So the new buildings have this sequence that interacts and these ramps that you start walking around and connecting visually from the new space to the old space. And that connection also happens with the rooftop that hovers above and rests upon the existing buildings. This is the outdoor cinema that we were talking about. So the idea of the outdoor cinema that was not originally part of the program is in Mexico City, we have at least 5 or 6 months of beautiful weather that people can sit outside and just really enjoy the space and be super comfortable and happy. Not only when there's movies, but also as an outdoor space so people can sit down. Now there's concerts and there's many other things happening at that plaza or that space. So again, I mean, we're not only looking to deliver a project, we're looking to have a very positive impact on the community. So our job in Rojkind Arquitectos is always to recalibrate or fine-tune the question that has been asked by the client to see if we can go further than that. And here you see some images of how they now use the public space. So it's used in many cultural ways, but it's also used for, in 2017, when we had the last earthquake here in Mexico, people were there helping other people, giving them clothes. So it becomes a very, an incredible democratic space where you have people helping other people. You have some quiet manifestations of people. Here you see the fathers of the students that disappeared in Ayotzinapa and haven't been, the government hasn't answered anything yet. And they appear and they take the space and they complain to the government. So it becomes a space where everything happens now. It's beautiful to see that a National Film Institute that is originally done for films can become this space where all of these things can happen. So again, if you're not seeing a movie at some point, it's okay. So you see here people using their computer, you see people with a guitar. Here you see a theater, somebody performing. So this cover that now you have on top of the old movie theaters becomes this performance space. So again, can we add value? Can we really have this positive impact? If you see this image, people are having picnics, they're just lying around reading a book. And the day of the opening, which was really incredible, a lot of the people that we were talking about said like that the open door cinema was not going to be very successful. I don't know why they didn't have faith on the project. And this was the day of the opening, that the space was planned for 600 people, and we had more than 2,000 people there enjoying the movie. So what you see in the background, which is also very interesting, is that this connects to an existing old town called Joco, el pueblo de Joco, and it has its cemetery. So the trees that you see there in the back are a visual connection to this garden that extends to the back. So it's beautiful to be in this space and to have like this oasis in the middle of something that now in the city is growing crazy density wise. So we're glad that we were part of that project. So again, coming to the idea of craft, and I wrote this down because I mean, craft slows things down and keeps traditional techniques alive, while maintaining this importance of human connection, where we really love in Mexico, and especially because we see here the craft in the day-to-day and while we're doing the things, as something very spiritual, very human, very incredible in terms of energetic, the energy that's connected to things. So, I mean, when we talk about digital design, but local fabrication, we always have in mind how it's going to be fabricated. So this is another project that we were asked by a department store, that for some people, maybe a department store might not be interesting at all. But we like the idea that we can convince them not to do the typical closed elements that you have in department stores all the time, but opening it up, not only to the from the inside out, but outside in. How can a department store normally it becomes a warehouse and doesn't have any relationship to the outside, can become a place of interaction to the city? So we started doing all these physical models to see how these, because originally they only asked us for some graphical thing on the facade that they can have and put on the outside. And we said, well, we're not graphic designers, we're architects, so we want to think about space. And to us, thinking about space means that you have to provide the idea of occupying and the movement and the mobility and the interaction of that space. So by doing these physical models, and here you see a little small video, we design even the way we present things to the clients, because we want them to understand the concepts of occupying the space. So it was not only the vibrancy of the facade, but also the movement, again, from the outside in and from the inside out. So This project sits in a corner of Insurgentes and Felix Cuevas, which is in Mexico. It's one of the most used roads, Insurgentes. So the idea of being in that corner and having a project that has this interaction to us was definitely very, very relevant. So again, using these tools to show the clients what we envision and how we imagine the interaction from the inside out. Here you see the facade extrudes almost 3 meters, 285. So there's enough space to really walk inside the facade and connect to the inside out. And the beauty is that at the bottom, you also have this incredible sense of coverage, because the box is lifted and then it's pushed out, as you see in the section on the right hand. Again, craftsmanships and the manual work will always remain the same. And this is in this project where we won the commission, the construction companies that bid on the project and eventually won to build it. One of them was a steel company. And I remember going to the steel factory because I wanted to see their machine laser cutting production for the project. And when I got to the site, they said, look, that's my machine. And they were pointing out to this guy, Jose, who was cutting every hexagon by hand. And the precision was amazing and the welding was amazing. So again, the beauty of the craft, and sometimes I miss when you see the final project. It's great, but the process of the project is really something that becomes really beautiful to experience. So here you see the rest of his team just going over and making and polishing it, making sure that it becomes these perfect shapes that eventually end up being part of the facade. So here you see the bigger piece, a 3-meter hexagon. And this is the mock-up that we did on site to present to the client. A little video, you can see how much transit happens in this cross section of how the project was being built. But there were some very beautiful images in the process. Again, people would stop and look at the building because they wouldn't understand what was happening, of people walking up and down in this project that, again, normally you would see these department stores closed or shut to the outside. And here, the transparency and the possibility of this interaction from the outside in is what started making it more interesting. No? And here you see some of the perforations. Some of them are these planters and gardeners, but the whole idea is this sense of open transparency towards the inside of the project. And of course, the relationship of people inside and out. So even if there's people there on the stop sign, they can see all these people being in the restaurant, having breakfast or whatever happens within the building. So again, the responsibility of even a department store that they don't think that they're responsible for what happens or the connection to the city. We want to make sure that while they're working with us, there is a shared responsibility and there is a way to push them a little bit to understand that if they make their projects a little bit better, it doesn't matter what their main goal is in terms of a department store that is focused on selling things. There has to be this responsibility towards the city and to the citizens in terms of the relationship to the connection and the contact. Here you see some other images of people walking across there, and yeah, and that's Liverpool. We worked a couple of projects for them, and then one of the main things that I forgot to mention is that we were imagining that all these elements that you see here were not only designed to put mannequins and so the idea is that maybe you can have a gastronomical experience happening in this area. You can have some co-working spaces at the bottom here. You would have a radio station happen here with a sign that would set on the air that was transmitting something. So can you activate the facade? Can this facade become just more than an opening to the outside? And that was the questions that were left at some point with the clients. And we did a couple of projects with them, and then we carried on to do some other projects in the office. This is a very meaningful one for Boca. And Alvaro, you can interrupt me at some point if somebody wants to ask something in the middle, or I keep on going and just continue showing the rest of the projects. You can tell me, no?
Okay, Michel, you have, let me just check for a second. You have about 10 minutes or so, but
Okay.
we would like to have a few minutes for questions and answers. Okay.
Okay. So let me do Foro Boca, and then I'll jump to maybe the last one, so we have a couple of minutes. So Foro Boca is very meaningful because Foro Boca, again, sorry, ¿algo más? No. No. Okay.
No.
So again. Okay. So talking about shared responsibility and reviving communities through architecture, focusing on challenges that make us understand how we can deliver growth and value into the lives of people, giving back to the communities I would mention. So this is a commission that started off by the mayor of Boca del Rio, who was asking people, I'll show you where Boca del Rio is. So this is Mexico in general. Then you have Veracruz, this thing here. And then in Veracruz, you have Boca del Rio. Oh? And Boca del Rio, when the mayor won the elections, he was asking the people there, what are you most proud of the space that you're in? And people were not proud of anything. They would say Veracruz. And he would say, no, but that's the state. But what are you in Boca del Rio? What makes you feel proud? So he found that there were a couple of musicians that liked classical music, and he brought in a music director, Mestre, to start putting together an orchestra that became very famous and very popular in Boca del Rio. So it became a sense of pride. And they started doing these beautiful things about connecting kids from the streets to instruments. So they would start breeding new generations of classical musicians. So when I got to the project, the Philharmonica was already famous, and they wanted to build a house for the Philharmonica. So I really felt honored to be part of this project, and not only to be able to design it, but to be able to select where the site was going to be. So we selected a site that was important to us because this site, first of all, is the river, and the river that goes out to the sea. Boca del Rio means mouth of the river. So we said, well, if we place the project in the mouth of the river, it just makes total sense that the house of the Philharmonica is there. The second reason is that this whole area here is an area that was not even looked at from new developers or for new financial investments at all. So it was a very kind of abandoned area that would need this kind of a boost to give more opportunities to the site. So we decided to put the project there. We always talked about the project not only as a house for the Philharmonica, but we always presented it as public spaces, the wave breaker, the back of the project, the front of the project. So it's a project that wanted to extend all the way to the outside and present itself as a continuity of a city and the connection to many of its residents. Here you see a physical model. The exact formal expression of the project, and again, coming from the ocean and the wave breaker. So these concrete blocks that you have there, we wanted to create a transition from the wave breaker to our project, and then you're going to have another scale be this high, the higher buildings when the zoning changes for the project. So these are some of the construction photographs. The Philharmonica houses space for 950 seats on the inside. It has a recording studios in the back of house with for all the musicians, some office space as well. It has another theater which can house other type of concerts to have different things happening in the project. So these are the images that we presented to the community while we were there. We talking about the craft, we were putting a special emphasis on the wood and the planks and how we would present the texture for the end. We wanted something to be very vibrant, but that you would see. So there are these planks that are pushed in and pushed out to create this effect. And of course, with time, you start seeing, instead of having this pristine and very straightforward facade, we wanted texture to be marked and that the building will start aging and showing the age of the building. These are some of the final images. Here you see the entrance of the project, Boca del Rio, the mouth of the river. So we wanted to create this cantilever concrete element that creates this mouth that opens up to the plaza and provides a 220-meter floor to ceiling height. So it's very compressed. And then once you enter the space, it liberates. I want to show you this small video because this was very important a couple of months before the opening. And the mayor came to the site, started telling everybody that he wanted to see everybody, the construction company, the engineers, everybody who's working on the project, they had to go to the main space because he had an announcement. And of course, as Mexico City's story goes, normally the politicians are they're very bad, and they speak very badly to people, and they're just interested in their politics and in pushing. So we thought he was going to start complaining about something, that the project was out of time, out of date or something. And eventually this is what happened. So let me see if the sound is on. Let me see if you can tell me, Alvaro, if you can hear the sound. Sorry. Sorry.
No, I don't hear the sound, Michel.
Okay, let me see. Is that better?
No. No, there's no sound, Michel.
Sorry. Well, I'll try to explain it, and I'll send you the link. But sorry that you can't hear the sound. So what's happening here is that when everybody got together, all the musicians from the orchestra, one by one, came out with hard hats and with their construction vests because they wanted to be seen as the construction workers are seen every day. They wanted to be exactly the same, and they wanted to play a concert for the workers. So they offered the first concert, the full Philharmonica, to the people building the building. So it was a very beautiful experience because instead of being this crazy politician speaking bad about the time, and he was very generous and very grateful to all the people, and he was able to provide this concert for them. So again, I think that this is a very important observation because we're, as architects, planners, and designers, we're always thinking of how to make the future better, but we're not thinking of our everyday actions and the importance of our everyday actions to make our jobs be better. So this was an incredible, beautiful experience. And again, I'm not surprised that then we were featured in the New York Times and everything that happened afterwards, because there was a beautiful harmony to all the project. It was about creating city. It was not about creating just a Philharmonica. It was this idea of the expansion of the exterior spaces. It was an idea of providing something that will eventually be a catalyst for growth and for economic expansion for that site. This is the way you see the project when you're traveling from the ocean. The public plazas on the outside with granite floors. The fishermen came back and now they're super happy because they have light on the wave breaker. And again, here you see a little bit of what I was talking about, of the transition of the stones and the rocks and the wave breakers that then become the symphony hall. And then eventually in the back of the symphony hall, you start seeing taller buildings in the back. The inside, always very surprising. So the outside is very covered and protective, and the inside you start seeing the sequences of mobility and how people go up and down, the mezzanines, double, triple heights, skylights opening to below, exposing the texture of the concrete. And there's spaces for other things to happen as well on the inside. So the beauty of the building is that while there's a concert on the main space, there can be a book fair, there can be a DJ playing on the other performance area, there can be somebody recording. So it has all these possibilities that, again, once we're working on the specific project, we love the idea of how we can expand the project. Every concert that happens on the inside also happens on the outside and becomes a free event for people that cannot afford to pay tickets to go to the inside of the project. So this is another condition that we wanted to give to the people in Boca del Rio. There's always these projectors, there's always the music. So whatever is happening on the inside is exactly happening on the outside for the people in Boca del Rio to really enjoy. The inside of the space is again very brutal acoustics with raw concrete on the inside, a little bit of wood to kind of play a little bit with the bright sound that you have on the inside. We've had amazing musicians come, and I love more the critics from the musicians rather than the architects, because the musicians are the people that are using the building. So the musicians being there and highlighting what they enjoyed or can work a little bit more for the place is always great for an architect to listen and to learn. No, so again, the day of the opening, more of the exterior projections, and I mean, if we design spaces for other things to happen, they will be used and occupied by people in ways that we don't expect. And this is one of the biggest compliments for architecture and for architects, and the best way for us to learn about the future. And I can leave it there, or if there's time for one more project, I can go for one more. What do you say, Alvaro?
Well, I don't know. If you could take a couple of minutes, maybe.
I'll do it really quick, but because I wanted, let me jump. I was going to show you a winery, but I'm more interested in this. I'll do it in 2 minutes. Let me see where.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Michel. Take 3 minutes.
Okay, 3. So we started doing a project for a friend of mine who's a runner, where we were asked to do some cabins in the woods, and these cabins in the woods ended up being postponed a little bit because my friend, the professional marathon runner, got a little bit delayed in some of his stuff. But when we were doing these, the interesting thing is that, and this is why you never know what's going to happen when you're working on something. This led to a client looking for us. And
are you sharing that screen?
I'm sharing the screen, but then something went wrong, right? Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Sorry, guys. So now I'm going to take 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay. Now you see the screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yes. We see it.
Perfect.
We see it, Michel.
A smart way to live well. Okay. So we had done this project for a friend of mine, again, that's a runner. And it got postponed, but long story short, we showed these projects, and then one client that has Wonder Cabins called me up, and he said, "Oh, I saw these cabins that you did, and I want you to design a cabin for us." So I went to see his cabins, and the beauty of what I saw was not the cabins, but the way he was doing a business. So instead of buying the land and putting cabins to rent, the guy rents the land to farmers that cannot use the land anymore because the government stopped consuming what the guys were farming. So he found a way to put the cabins there, rent the land to the farmers, and have the farmers work as part of the community. So I really love the idea, and I started working with him on a new variation of projects, and where we designed a new cabin, of course, and we said, well, what happens if you have a cabin that is a single cabin, but it's designed in a very particular way, so it doesn't look like your average cabin, but that maybe you can add modules to it. So the single cabin now becomes a double module cabin or a 3-module cabin, and you have different types of expressions for the cabin. Here you have the single module, the double module, and the triple module. So we were working with this client. I put together a team of amazing, talented industrial designers, these guys from Tux, Emiliano Godoy, a very good friend of mine, Amasa, which is another architectural firm that I work a lot with. And we started producing and fabricating this cabin for the outside. There you see a quick time lapse. And we just opened up the new location in Malinalco. And we're very excited because, again, first of all, we're helping the community. We're working with the farmers on different lands. And the idea is to expand this in all of Mexico. So you have these cabins that you can rent on the website of Wonder. This is the site that we got for Malinalco. this was the place where we saw it for the first time. Some of the cabins that you will have. These are renderings that were showed on some of the media outlets. This is the real cabins now, put on site. The furniture, again, designed by Tux, this Mexican company, great industrial designers, super conscientious about wood and sustainability. And so this just opened up last week. And this is a small project, but a project that we're very proud of, not only participating, but I became a partner with this client because I really love the idea. I love the idea how we can start doing permaculture on the sites to leave the sites much better than we found them, how we can really engage with community and make the site much better. So this is a project that now people can enjoy, and I'm happy to be part of. So, okay. I hope that was good in time.
Muchas gracias, Michel. Thank you so much.
¿De qué? Un placer. Let me stop sharing now. Okay, and here we're back.
Well, I've seen your work way back in 2007 when I invited you to Costa Rica, and I'm just always impressed and amazed by the fantastic job you do. And one of the things that I like and I admire a lot is that you take advantage of the craft and the crafts people that you have in Mexico, and you are able to produce these seemingly high technology buildings, but they're made by hand, and they are fantastically detailed and well finished. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michel. Are there any comments or questions from the? Go ahead, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much for the great presentation. Yeah, I'm from Texas. So it's not far away, but I never had a chance to visit Mexico. So next time I have a chance to go Mexico, yeah, I love to visit your architecture. Thank you. So one word you mentioned really captured my attention, which is the symphony hall, concert hall along the beach. You said the catalyst. So maybe it's too early to say, but I'm sure the concert hall became the catalyst. So along the way from the city to the coastal line, there will be a lot of impact, maybe new retails or other buildings will be built as a ripple effect. Are you start noticing it, or it's still too early?
Well, first of all, please leave Texas, come to Mexico. just kidding. But it's crazy what's happening in Texas. But anyway, we won't get into that now. In Mexico, yes. I mean, I've seen already the zoning change, and it's becoming not only beautiful to see, but interesting to see how careful they're doing things. So they're adding a change of zoning where they have higher buildings, but they're asking people to have the base project be only 2 levels with retail connecting to the street and the beach. So you have restaurants and coffees and bars and things. And then if they have residential, they have to push back the building. So you never see a tall building towards the main street, no? And then the beauty again is that they're being very careful of making sure that the people that live there understand that they're benefited also because there's this thing is happening. So not only kicking people out and buying their properties in a very low cost and gentrifying, but really making sure who wants to stay in the community and leave their quesadilla stands and their famous bakery, if there was a bakery in that space. So I'm curious to see how it will evolve, but it's already evolving. So I'm happy in that direction. Oh, and one thing that I didn't mention And this is very relevant because in politics in Mexico, a building that was done by the government normally stays, the ownership remains from the government. And here, because of the problems that we have between political parties, the mayor made sure that the building now belongs to the patronage of the Philharmonica. So the government doesn't own the building anymore. Once the building was finished, the documents and the ownership of the building was transferred directly to the people of the Philharmonica. So that was beautiful, because if his political party, which happened to lose in the next year, would have become from the government, they could have shut down the project because of envy and the typical things that we know in politics in Latin America. No? So this was a very interesting thing that to see a politician do, which is also a design strategy. No?
I see. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Well, I just want to say thank you. I'm truly impressed by your work and now by your presentation. So thank you very much for sharing it with us today.
Gracias, Marina. Thank you.